Hey everyone, welcome to the Liquid Lunch, episode number 4. We're joined here by a very special guest, a good friend of mine and friend of Level 6. We're joined by the co-founder and co-owner of Whitewater Brewing Company. So really excited to have Chris Thompson here. So Chris, thanks for coming in, man. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. Obviously an avid viewer myself.
Good.
So,
Good.
Really exciting to be
and
here.
Like 8 other people.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And then, as always, I'm joined by the co-founder and owner of Level 6, Stig Larson. So, hey, Stig.
Yeah, thanks. I'm here. It's about another 2 weeks.
Yeah. Yeah, we were just traveling in Vancouver last week. It was awesome. And now we're back at it, back on the grind.
Mm-hmm.
No more traveling for the next little while, which is great.
Yes, now that we're not going out to retailer anymore, we have our kind of August free, which is nice.
Yeah.
Enjoy the summer of Ottawa.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, Chris, once again, thanks for coming in. We just did a sup giveaway through the Whitewater Brewery where you guys basically did a raffle giveaway for a sup board. And a whole package.
It was a really cool package.
Yeah. So I'm super stoked that you guys were on board with that, and thank you very much for supporting our drinking habits here.
Needs.
So
on that note,
before we get any further, let's talk about our featured beer of the day. So we're drinking the Blood Moon. It's a sour beer. Do you want to tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah. So Blood Moon is our first sort of entrance into the sour market. We've never brewed a sour before on any sort of scale.
Mm-hmm.
So for those people that aren't familiar with sours, does what it says on the tin.
Yeah.
it is just a sour beer.
Yeah.
So you add a different type of bacteria to the beer, which literally lowers the pH level and makes it sour. So this one is a blood orange sour.
Mm-hmm.
So we've flavored it with some blood orange. And it kind of gives that sort of sour candy effect.
Yeah.
So for people that love sour candies, this is great.
Cool.
If you hate it, then maybe not.
My 12-year-old daughter loves sour candies. I wonder.
Get her hooked.
We don't recommend that.
Yeah. I wasn't a big fan of sours when they first got. Like, it's a new kind of trend within the microbrewery side of things, and I wasn't a huge fan of it. I think I tried my first one 2 years ago, and just got more and more into it. And now I love them.
Like you said, it is a bit of a new trend.
Yeah.
This happens in the brewing industry. Obviously, IPAs were a big trend and still are, that stayed.
Mm-hmm.
And sort of sours seem to be the next one of those, where it's not just here for a short time. People like to continue drinking them, and it becomes like a mainstay.
Totally, and like we're in a heat wave right now. It's like 38 degrees out there outside right now. It's the perfect kind of beer for those hot days instead of a heavy IPA or a stout or something like that. Yeah, which is better for by a fire on a cold night.
Yeah, for sure. And for our sort of first sour beer, we wanted to brew one that was like an entrance to the sour world.
Yeah, okay.
So not one of these really face puckering sours that you have to work your way up to. This is sort of nice and easy drinking for a sour, not too face puckering, but still has that sort of key sour flavor to it.
Cool.
So.
Awesome. Well, without further ado, let's crack them open. Cheers, Chris. Thanks for coming in,
cheers
man.
for coming in.
Appreciate
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, guys.
it. Yeah. Happy summer.
Yes.
Cheers.
Damn, that's good.
I can hear your gulps.
Yeah. That's good.
So as always, we have Jesse behind the camera. He's manning anything. If you guys have any questions for Chris, if you have any questions for Stig and myself, or any comments, feel free to just chime in on the live chat. We'll do our best to answer the questions. Let's get into it. So first, we'll just go through a bit of news. So right now, we have a Faces of Level 6. We just released another edition of Faces of Level 6. So these videos basically give you a little bit of insight into what happens behind the scenes here at Level 6. It gives you insight into like our designers, Stig, the owner, and kind of our direction. So we just got one with one of our longest standing athletes, Tino.
Sure.
Tino is a wonderful human being. Chris, you know Tino from working on the river.
Absolutely.
So he is a photographer, cinematographer.
National Geographic has done a lot of stuff.
He does a bunch of interesting stuff. Super avid paddler, based out of Chile. And he just basically did a little bit of a review shout out to why he loves Level 6. So check that out on our YouTube page. You can also find it on all of our social media platforms. Right now we have our featured products of the month. So we have our sun protection. It's July, it's hot, sun is out. This year we released a new ultralight sun protection layer called the Dune for men and then the Oasis for women. It's a UPF 35 layer. It's just an awesome top. I've been using mine a bunch, especially in these humid conditions. It's just the best. So go check that out. Pick one up at your local shop or check out level6.com if you don't have a local dealer next to you. From there, we've got the World Freestyle Kayak Championships going on right now. So I don't know if you guys have been following that.
I mean, yeah.
We have a few athletes there. A few of them are actually doing quite well. So Marlene from France is third. As of yesterday, she was in the semis, was placed third, top 3, which is great. She's been kicking ass. So Marlene, way to go.
Yeah, she was over in North America the past couple weeks as well with her husband/boyfriend.
Yeah.
Doing a bunch of the tours, the GoPro Mountain Games, I think she was
Yeah,
there.
she won that one too. Yeah, she's been on a tear lately. So thank you, Marlene, for waving the flag and just being an awesome kick-ass kayaker. And then we have Luke Pomeroy, who came 6th. Which is great. 6th in the world for junior men's.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, he just missed the finals by like a couple points. So great work, Luke. And then the rest of the crew that's out there, Mark Godbout, we've got Matt Hamilton out there, Caleb Kennedy, we've got Visa from Finland, and Hunter Vincent. So guys, thank you for being supporters of Level 6 and kick ass and represent Canada at Worlds in Spain. Yep. So. And the last thing I'll mention in the news side of things is we've got Paddle Sports Retailer coming up for all of our dealers. This is where we're going to release our 2020 line. So if you're a dealer watching this, email your rep or email info@level6.com. Try and book an appointment. For the rest of you that aren't going to have access to that show because it's dealers only, we'll be releasing stuff on social media. So you'll be able to see our colors, new boards and stuff coming out. We've got we've got 2 new dry suits coming out. So it's really exciting.
And a new spray skirt. We have totally redesigned and rethought how whitewater spray skirts are going to be done.
Yeah.
So we have a new technique.
Cool.
We actually built our own sewing machine to sew this stuff together. It's going to be ridiculous.
Yeah. So keep your eyes peeled for that. And without further ado, you ready to announce the winner?
Yeah, absolutely.
I'll give you, I don't know if you remember.
I do. I know this.
Okay,
I know all the instructions as well.
So, like we said, we did a SUP giveaway ultimate summer package with the Whitewater Brewery. You guys are giving away a bunch of like clothing and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, complete coincidence, but it happens to be this hat and this shirt.
Which is like the iconic Whitewater Brewery shirt.
Exactly. You know? Everybody today has been saying like, how are you wearing that today? I'm like, I know, it's for a reason.
Yeah.
So drew the winner. So this shirt, the hat, some other things from us, but also a paddleboard and paddle and various other great prizes from you guys. We had a huge amount of entries, which was really cool. It blew me away at how many we had. Yeah. So that was really cool. And shall we just...
Yeah, without further ado, announce it.
Well, without further ado. So the winner is Tristan H. from Canmore in Alberta.
Awesome.
Well done, Tristan.
Yeah, congratulations, Tristan. We will ship you the board here next week. And I guess Whitewater Brewery will ship you some stuff next week as well. Yeah. We'll go from there.
For sure.
So we'll reach out to you on the back side of things, and then we'll also make a post on social media in case you missed this wonderful live stream.
We'll send you a DM.
Is that what the kids say?
Is that right, Jesse? A DM?
You slide.
Oh, slide you a DM.
Yeah.
Slide you a
Twitter.
DM.
God, you're old.
Perfect.
Awesome. So, again, congratulations, Tristan H. from Canmore, Alberta. That's wicked. Hopefully you'll enjoy the board and all the swag from Whitewater Brewery. Great company, and thank you for everyone who entered. We'll probably do another one next year.
I think so. I think... it's a great prize. I mean, if I was allowed to, I would have entered. I wanted to win everything there, so that was really cool.
Well, we can take care of you, man. Don't worry about it.
I was actually out 2 days ago now on Savannah's supboard. Yeah. I'm a little too big for it. You know, it's not exactly floating above water.
Okay.
It's kind of semi-submarining.
Hey, at least you're getting
But, it was with the dog on it as well.
Okay, yeah.
But I was wearing that shirt you were talking about. Is it the Dune?
Yeah.
So I was wearing that, and not only was it great for the sun, but I was on the river, and it was super buggy.
Oh, okay.
And it was really great for that.
Yeah, it's been brutal.
Because there were like hundreds of bugs around me. didn't bother me. So
Awesome.
it was cool for that.
Wicked.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you're getting good use of that board and that shirt too, because it's kick-ass. It's my new favorite thing. So, so let's get into. We're gonna kind of do this whole interview with you. We want to learn about Whitewater Brewery, about Chris Thompson, the man, the myth, the legend.
How this happened.
How you came from wherever the hell you're
living
from.
in a van.
You've got an accent, so it's not a Valley accent. If you're trying to
this is my best Canadian. So that everyone understands.
So you grew up in the UK.
Yes. Yeah. I grew up in a small town called Chandlersford, just between Southampton and Winchester, so on the south coast. No sort of beaches or anything around me, but my mum's side of the family are all from Cornwall.
Yep.
And I grew up there spending my time in the ocean, surfing and bodyboarding and swimming and just being in the water as much as possible. And I always loved it.
Yeah.
When I was 18, I wanted to go skiing. Had spent a lot of time in my teens going across to the Alps to ski. And my friends and I just wanted to go skiing for a year.
Yeah.
So moved to Banff.
Okay.
And skiing and snowboarding there, became an instructor and whatnot. And people I met there, you were also good friends with them, worked on the Ottawa River as raft guides. I'd never been rafting, never been whitewater kayaking, but thought, that sounds like a fun gig to do before going to university. So came out east from BC to spend the summer at Wilderness Tours on the Ottawa River. And I was a full-time guide there for 12 years. Yeah. So.
And you're still guiding to this day.
Yeah, still do the occasional trip, even if it's just a staff trip with all of our staff.
Yeah.
And still get out on the river as much as possible.
Awesome.
But I just fell in love with whitewater.
Yeah.
And kept coming back, and then wanted to figure out a way to set some permanent roots.
Totally.
With access to the whitewater.
Yeah, which is kind of difficult in that area. Like you said, I've known you for about 10 years now. We work together as guides on the Ottawa River, and the difficult part is that economically it's not a rich area, you could say. There's very little economy to kind of sustain there in terms of finding work. So setting roots is quite difficult there unless you're into the adventure tourism, which is kind of heavily regulated. Land is really tough to come by out there, and then any other industry, it's just difficult.
It's like a small town farming industry.
Totally,
right?
It's
rural Ontario.
Yeah. So, what did you do from there?
Yeah, so I mean, like you say, as a raft guide or any adventure sports, you have your core season where it's busy. Yeah. So summer was great, but then you've got spring and fall where there's not much work. You kind of live off peanuts, but you still get to kayak. And that's great. But then in the winter, that disappears. And that's why a lot of people disappear as well and travel, right? And go skiing or go whitewater in the southern hemisphere. But I knew I wanted to keep whitewater and that side of things as a passion for me sort of recreationally. Yeah. But not so much for work.
Totally.
I just finished university studying international business. And I pretty much decided I wanted to start my own business. I just didn't know what. Pretty funny, actually, like when I was going through various things from like healthy fast food to obviously a brewery, but also stumbled across, we could do like apparel for the industry too and compete with Level 6. Obviously.
Glad you didn't do
decided against that. Looking at it, it's like, well, they're doing pretty well themselves. So.
It's also a tough business too. Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
I'm sure beer is as well.
Yeah. But so then it led to a trip where myself and a group of friends were on the Grand Canyon. So doing I think we were 19 days on the river.
Yeah.
However many hundreds of miles and however many rapids. You've done the trip. It's awesome.
It's great.
We did it over the Christmas period, and the sun goes down really early, right? So 3-4 o'clock in the afternoon, it starts getting dark, and you're off the river, and you've got the campfire lit, and you've got a raft full of beer because that was a priority.
Well, that's the pastime. If you're not on the river, you're drinking.
Right.
That's essentially what we're conditioned to do.
Wasn't your story when you got set up for your canyon trip, you had more weight in booze than actually you had in food and yourself?
Yeah, I can share the photo. I have one, and there's just like a pyramid of booths that's probably as tall as I am. I'm 6'3".
Yeah.
I bought probably like 6 2-4s to myself, and then a bunch
Yeah.
of like,
It's crazy.
I probably had my weight in alcohol on that trip for 21 days, and I ran out. So, yeah, if you think you have enough, you don't.
Yeah, yeah, it's true. So we were sat, around campfires most evenings, drinking beers, and I think it was day 12 we pinned it back to, but we were sat around sort of just reading the can, and we were drinking New Belgium Brewing Company's Fat Tire.
Okay, it's great beer.
And we thought how cool it was that they use sort of local ingredients and renewable energy, and we joked around at how cool it would be to start a brewery on the Ottawa River. And it really was just a joke throughout the canyon, and we were like, oh, we could do this, and we could do this, how fun would that be? And then we left, and then we kind of just kept talking about it.
Yeah.
And, fast forward, 2 years later, we opened. So in that time, we sort of got to the point where it was like, we either need to stop talking about it because it's not going to happen, or do something about it. So I went and got experience volunteering at some breweries back in England, and I took a startup brewing course, which by no means made me a brewmaster, but sort of taught me how to make recipes, how to design a layout, the important things of the brewing industry. And 2 friends and business partners, James and Chris, they also volunteered in some breweries and stuff. They were traveling in Australia and New Zealand and did some down there, and I was in England, and then we came back together to sort of make our business plan. And having studied business and writing business plans there, I sort of had a head start with it and got that going, and then made it happen on Raft Guide salaries.
Yeah, because I watched you guys grow the brewery. I was kind of watching from day one, and my favorite part of the whole process was when I had a place. You guys were all kind of living the dirty Raft Guide style, like either in trailers or like the cabins provided for staff accom.
My yellow van.
Yeah, your yellow van, which I miss.
Yeah.
And I had like a kind of a house that I was renting with like a back deck. And at the time, you guys were kind of testing out your recipes.
Yeah.
My favorite part was when they're like, oh, we messed this recipe up, and they would just drop a keg off at the back porch. Okay. And then I'd throw a kick-ass party, and everyone...
So you were the baller up there.
For a little while. Yeah, but not anymore.
I heard house, I heard back deck, I heard free beer.
Yeah, if you call renting a house baller, I guess by Raft Guide.
As far as Raft Guide, that was as good as it gets.
Yeah, so that was my favorite part. And then we moved in together at the farmhouse. You guys opened up your first location. You rented a barn that you converted. So tell us about how that process went.
Yeah, so obviously one of the big things to figure out is where are we going to be? And we wanted to be as close to the river as possible.
Yeah.
During the off season a couple of years before, I'd done some extra work for Joe at Wilderness Tours, sort of insulating and putting drywall up in this barn. And I was like, that would be a really cool location. I knew he wanted to do something with it, but nothing was really happening. So we approached him, and he was good enough to give us a really great deal. To get us started in there and living in the house as well, just to get things going. And we ordered equipment and got it in, and then realized that in the winter, this old dairy barn got pretty cold, and we couldn't afford to heat the whole place. So we decided to put our brewing equipment in what are now the male and female washrooms.
Okay. Yeah,
at the time, there were no washrooms.
Yeah.
It was just 2 small rooms that we could heat and shut the doors.
Yeah.
So we used to brew in there, and this brewing system that we could afford was tiny. We still have it. It's amazing. It just brews 1 keg at a time, though.
Yeah. Okay.
So we would brew 1 keg at a time. At first, we would do that 3 times a week. So 3 kegs a week. And then a month later, we would do 3 times a day, 3 times a week.
Okay.
So suddenly we're up to 9 kegs a week.
Yeah.
And then sort of when we maxed it out in that facility, we were going 5 times a day, 7 days a week. And that was sort of maximum for that little brew system.
And who was your first customer? Was it Wilderness Tours or?
Yeah, so Wilderness Tours were the first ones to put us on tap, as well as Frisco's in Eganville, which is now called Rio. But they were the first ever places to take us on.
Yeah.
You probably remember early on at Wilderness Tours, I would be stood there with a little tap system myself, pouring and selling, and that was May 2013, and that was day one.
Yeah, and now you guys are, how many kegs a day are you guys doing?
Well, we now currently are selling about 4 of these a minute.
Whoa.
4 cans a minute, so every 15 seconds.
That's a cool metric.
24/7. That's my favorite metric.
Yeah, that's really cool.
You know,
that's cool.
That one sort of puts it in perspective to everyone.
Totally.
Everyone understands a can every 4 minutes.
Yeah.
4 every minute.
Yeah, that's amazing.
So, you know, in the big grand scheme of things, that's sort of up to roughly 100,000 liters a month right now.
Okay. Yeah. But before we fast forward too much, so from there, so you're brewing in those small rooms that are now bathrooms.
Yeah.
And I remember the cool thing about that you guys had like whiteboard in the room, and you guys would write the recipes, so you could actually like go in there and check out the recipes. And it was all gibberish to me, but it was still cool to see kind of the process you guys had. And then you guys opened a restaurant, right? The Riverside Restaurant. So for those of you guys that don't know, or if you're in the valley or you want to come to the Ottawa River to paddle, this is the local hotspot for all the kayakers, raft guides, locals. It's this beautiful red barn, a stone throw away from the Lorne, which has iconic waves like Bus Eater, the Garburator, Push Button. It's probably one of my favorite rapids on the Ottawa River. So you guys opened a restaurant there, right?
Yeah, we had a lot of people coming to visit us just for the brewery, and some people would drive, from Kingston or from Orleans or even come for a weekend paddling. And we would give them a brewing tour and let them sample everything and sell them some stuff in retail. So they would be with us for maybe half an hour and then get on their 2-hour drive home. Yeah. So a 4-hour round trip for a half an hour experience.
Yeah.
And basically we wanted to figure out how we could give them more value, make it more worthwhile people making the trip, because people were doing it. So yeah, obviously with beer goes food. So we wanted to start a restaurant pub with our same values, so high quality, local ingredients as sort of the main pillars, and sort of doing things that people would expect but a little bit different. A bit like craft beer is generally.
And it is, honestly, it's fantastic food. I've eaten there a couple of times with Katie or Joel Kowalski. Like, if you like the Works burger in Ottawa, like, your burger is above that level of burger. Like, everything you do is above what you think a gourmet place in Ottawa would be. So it's really good food.
Yeah, and the cool part is like the whole locally sourced thing, like that. If you don't mind touching upon kind of like that whole side of things, I think that's super important. That's a big trend within the food industry. And you guys were kind of at the forefront of that, so that's wicked.
Yeah, it's really difficult to do because it can be more expensive. Just finding the things is more difficult. But basically, if we can get it, we'll pay for it, and we'll figure out our pricing, and if we have to charge a bit more, we do. But if we can figure it out, we will. So a really great example, though this is my favorite story, is with our beef. So obviously in brewing, one of the main ingredients is grain. Once that process is done, you've got all this grain left over where you've already got the flavor and the sugar out of it. But what do you do with it? So it's pretty common in the brewing industry, but we give it to a cattle farmer locally who feeds it to his cattle, and then we buy back the beef from them. So
cool.
The cows have eaten our beer grains. And so we like to think it adds a nice bit of unique flavor.
And your bread is also made from the spent grains as well.
Pizza dough as well.
That's amazing.
Guys, I have a couple questions. First one from Jess. What was the most challenging beer recipe you've ever come up with, Chris?
That's a difficult one because none of them are easy. Some of the lighter flavored beers probably are the more difficult ones. So, starting out, one of our main 4 was the Farmer's Daughter. It's a blonde ale. And the reason it's difficult is it's easy to pack a ton of flavor into a product. We can put tons of grain in and different styles of grain. Our stout has 7 different types of grain.
Yeah.
Our IPA, you can, so Class 5 IPA or some of the new ones that you guys have had, you can pack a ton of hops in.
Yep.
And it's still a difficult process to find the right balance to get the right sort of levels of flavor and balance.
But you're going for strong, right?
Exactly,
So, yeah.
but you're putting a lot of flavor into something.
Yeah.
What's difficult, I find, or found at the time, was making a beer that's sort of light and easy drinking for the people that want that, but still tastes of something.
Yes.
Without it going too watery.
Right. Yeah.
Like German beer sometimes.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
And, so we didn't want it to go too watery, but you still need some unique flavor in there and to stick to our values of having great ingredients. And those obviously add flavor. So just finding a right balance for the lighter products is something I found difficult.
Mm-hmm.
Our brewmaster now, Sean, I mean, he's far more talented at brewing than I ever would be, so I doubt he struggles with that at all.
Mm-hmm.
This was actually his first sour ever.
Okay.
On a commercial scale.
Yeah.
And I know him and the brewing team were a bit nervous about it because it's adding in this whole other souring process, and you're bringing in this bacteria that makes the beer sour, but that bacteria can spread like wildfire.
Could it go too sour?
It could go too sour, but the bigger risk is you could wake up one morning and all of your fermenters have soured. And suddenly we've got sour Farmer's Daughter and sour Whistling Paddler. And so the control over that bacteria is really difficult and really important. So, the process itself of souring the beer isn't difficult, but the diligence you need to keep it sort of contained.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not just something like, super hygienic, you're washing your hands, don't touch anything.
Yeah, you try and keep everything in a closed system, and you've got sanitizer and cleaning products at the ready.
Okay.
Just anything that touches it.
Flushing lines.
Yeah, and things like hoses and things like that, we just keep for the sour.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So we don't clean a hose and then use it for one of our regular beers. We just keep that as a sour hose now.
Yeah.
So what was the hardest beer, or was there the one that stands out as the hardest?
Well, for me, because I did the original recipes with James and Chris, the Farmer's Daughter was probably the most, out of our original 4.
Yeah, so the original 4 were the Farmer's Daughter, the Whistling Paddler, which is one of my personal favorites, the Midnight Stout, and the Class 5 IPA, correct?
Yes,
What was the very first one? Was there one that was the very...
Farmer's Daughter.
The very first?
Yeah, I think Farmer's Daughter was the first one we brewed. I think we brewed them... Farmer's Daughter, Whistling Paddler, Class 5, Midnight Stout. Midnight Stout was actually the easiest.
Oh, really?
So with all of them, we did a bit of recipe development, but Midnight Stout, we made the recipe, we loved it, but, always trying to improve, we thought, let's make these tweaks and see if we like it more. We didn't. We stuck with the original recipe and never changed it. So, so that one was super easy.
So question now, is your wife that we just met, is she the Farmer's Daughter?
She is not.
No. Just curious. You never know.
Yeah.
Guys, is there ever going to be a Whitewater edition supboard?
It's in our plans, yes. We have one designed.
Yeah.
The market's pretty tiny in it, but we have one planned, yes.
Yeah.
There will be one in the future. Not 2020, but probably 2021.
I think the question was more like, is it going to be branded Whitewater Brewery supboard?
Oh, I just let the cat out of the bag already early.
Yeah. Way to go, idiots.
Sorry.
We would love to do one.
I think that would be fun.
Yeah, I think it'd be super fun to do. The tricky part is meeting factory minimums.
Yes.
Like 500 of them. Yeah. So if you guys want Whitewater Brewery branded supboards, please let us know.
Yeah.
We need to make 500.
We need 500 of you.
Kickstarter.
Chris, I got another one for you.
Yeah, go.
This is the most questions we've ever gotten, by the way. So.
Is working at a brewery different than you thought it would be when you started?
It's been really varied for me, which I love. I love the variety that each day brings to me. For me, it started out brewing and doing accounting and sales and just doing everything. And now I do almost none of that. And I'm dealing with people issues and
babysitting,
all the fun stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I mean, we have a great team of managers that run their own departments, and So yeah, I mean, I think it has provided me with exactly what I wanted, which is just continual change and development and excitement.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, it's crazy to see, you guys starting on a garage in the valley to having 2 breweries now, which is it's wild to see that growth. So I'm sure your role has changed, and we're going to get into that whole entrepreneur stuff, because Stig, as a veteran of 23 years, growing Level 6 from the back of a van selling board shorts, there was definitely a lot of that was going to be a big part of this whole thing, where we're going to ask you kind of similar,
even back of a van brewing beer, right? It's a very similar starting point, which is interesting.
Totally. Any more questions there, Jesse? Keep diving into
more of have you had any epic recipe experiments that they're not necessarily on the shelf?
I drank them all.
Tons of them.
Yeah.
He drank them all.
People want to hear either a horror story or.
There's never really any horror stories. Free beer is free beer. It's good.
This wasn't so much an experiment, but a mistake. I'm happy talking about this because it was actually my wife's brother who used to work for us. He was doing some brewing with us, and one day, it's kind of the cliche. I don't know if you guys have ever seen the Friends episode where Rachel's making trifle, and then the pages stick together, and she's like, custard, jam, sponge fingers, meat, peas, onions, gravy.
Joey eats it.
Joey loves it.
Yeah.
Well, Josh basically had the same thing where 2 pages stuck together. So he brewed half of Whistling Paddler and half of Class 5.
Oh, no way.
And all the grain was mixed and all the hops were mixed, and just it fermented away, and he'd marked it down as whichever he was meant to brew.
Yeah.
And we were looking at it like, this doesn't look right. Like, it's not Class 5 because it's too dark, but it's not Whistling Paddler because it's way too hoppy.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like a disgusting experiment, but we just had this product that we couldn't put on the shelves as anything. So instead, we had a staff party and just drank it.
Drink it all. Yeah. It's easy.
Next question: are you guys hiring?
Yeah. What does the IBU rating number mean on the beer?
Oh.
The International
Splashback.
Bitters Units?
International Bittering Units.
Yeah, that's what it is.
So it's a guideline of how bitter a beer is. It's a little bit subjective. Mm-hmm. There's no sort of guaranteed bitterness level, and some people perceive some things as bitterness when it might be just a different flavor. But basically, the higher the number, the more bitter it is.
Okay.
So, for example,
what's this one?
Blood Moon is only a 4.
What's the highest on the scale?
It goes into the hundreds. I've seen beers at like 120, 130.
This is 22.
Farmer's Daughter is 22.
Yeah.
Class 5 IPA is 72.
Okay.
I think Astrolab, which you guys had, is 60 something off the top of my head.
Okay.
So some people confuse as well bitterness with like hoppy aroma or flavor. Bitterness is when you get that sort of sharp bite on the back of your tongue. You can have very hoppy beers that aren't very bitter.
Okay.
And you can have very bitter beers that don't have much hoppy aroma. Most of the time, you'll be getting both. You'll be getting hops and bitterness.
Okay.
Because most of the bitterness does come from the hops.
Yeah.
But it can come from some of the dark grains too. But basically, higher the number, the more bitter it is.
Okay.
Cool.
Will you ever come up with an evergreen or juniper style IPA?
Neat.
That's interesting. I can't say we've talked about it, but we were always looking for fun new stuff to do, so I think that sounds great.
Yeah. Juniper's used in gin, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And there's tons of juniper around, and
in the valley. That's true. Yeah,
it's all over the riverside. So
one of my favorite beers was the Jack Frost Demise, the wintergreen. Was it a chocolate mint stout? It
was a chocolate vodka and wintergreen porter.
And I remember you guys went out and handpicked the wintergreen out behind the barn, which was the coolest part. You guys were foraging for your own wintergreen. Because it's everywhere. Like in the fall and in the valley, you get these little red berries and then these green leaves. And just cool. It's delicious. It's like the same thing. It's like mint.
Yeah, and we the only reason we didn't brew that beer on a bigger scale is we couldn't find anywhere either locally or further afield that could supply us the amount of wintergreen we needed, because it's a big ingredient in root beer, and they kind of steal all the market.
Yeah.
But yeah, that one's really fun. But yeah, I mean, juniper evergreen stuff, that could be fun. Yeah. I'll mention it to our brewmaster.
People are yelling Christmas season style beer.
Well, we brew 12 beers of Christmas. So we could make it one of those.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Are your beers good in booties? That's more of a...
I mean, what beer isn't after a swim? I mean,
you need to wash that shame down a little bit. So. I actually have a photo that I found on my hard drive of the last time we went to the Seven Sisters together and took that swim, and you and Tom graciously joined me in a booty beer. They didn't need to, but
just courtesy.
In front of the yellow van that you're talking about, the yellow submarine. Yeah.
This one's more of a, I hope I don't put you on the spot, interview style question. What makes Whitewater Brewery unique compared to other breweries, do you think, in your opinion?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the beer industry has been exploding in North America, so there's tons and tons of competition, and there's a ton of amazing beer out there. So I'm not going to say we have the best beer in North America or anything like that.
I'll say it. You guys have the best beer in North America.
We strive for really great beer, but I think there's tons of breweries that can create great beer. I think what we do differently to some, not all, there's others that do this, is some of our priorities. So we really prioritize sort of building a great team, having that sort of just fun team environment where everybody really cares. We had a company-wide meeting recently, so we had sort of 85, 90 employees at our Lakeside location, and we did a big presentation to them, and just the interaction we all had, I could tell that everybody really cared and believed in what we're doing, and sort of our focus on creating high quality and providing our customers with what they want. And that was really, really cool.
It's like a big family. When you walk into any of your restaurants, it is definitely very much like a family vibe that you get from all the staff there.
And it is, but everyone knows they still have to work, and they still have to, which is great.
Yeah, everyone has their role, right?
Because some people come and think, oh, it's just fun, we're just going to drink beers with it, and it's not. We all work hard.
Hey, Jesse?
Well, if you're not going to drink that farmer's daughter in front of you, I'm like...
Did you already polish that off?
Yeah, of course. I have a really interesting
I'm going to jump in there 1 second. Do what I think, when I look at Whitewater Brewery, what separates you guys is that you don't just do a version of an IPA or a version of a Pilsner. You do your own Pilsner, your own IPA, and it's so far off of everyone else goes their version or their version. Yours is here, and their versions are over here, and you hit it on the nose. So it's a unique beer. Even though it's an IPA or a sour, it's your unique version of what. Doesn't make any sense. It's your unique recipe of it. It's not just a version of someone else's recipe.
Right.
Yeah, you're strong to you're true to your identity, which is
if you have your farmer's daughter, it's a unique taste, and you hit it a home run every time.
Yeah.
So I think that's where I always see it. Yeah. I have a bunch of people I know who own breweries or they support breweries, but it's always a version of someone else's thing. So.
Yeah, no, I do agree with that. We try and differentiate the taste, the flavor, the recipe,
innovate.
but still make it great. Yeah. So when we were doing the sour, it's okay. Sours are popular, they're great, but we want our sour to be different. Yeah. That's approaching people that like sours, but want something that's maybe slightly different from what's there already.
Yeah, agreed.
So,
Jesse, just for a moment. Keep the questions coming in. We'll do another kind of question period just so we can keep kind of moving forward, because I know Steak has a bunch of questions as well. So keep the questions coming. I don't mean to stamp on the momentum we're getting.
Maybe these questions are going to supersede all my questions.
Well, that's the thing.
It's okay.
But we'll do another question period in another 5 minutes or so. So just keep them coming, all right? And then we'll get to you guys. Chris will answer all of your questions. We're going to make sure he stays here until his job is complete.
4-hour interview.
Yeah.
You want my phone here? Hold on, I'm going to make sure.
Oh,
there's the camera, man.
Here's where it goes astray.
So now you guys have 2 breweries. You've got 2 restaurants.
Yeah.
You've got 100+ employees.
Yeah.
Which is crazy growth, because you guys started in 2013.
Yep. May 2013 we opened. Yeah. So we
6
just
years
had our
later.
6th birthday. Yeah.
Which is crazy. It's crazy growth. So I know Steak had a bunch of questions that just from the entrepreneur side of things. So Larson,
jump into it?
take it away, please.
Hot seat.
Yeah.
All right. Some of these have already been kind of quasi-answered, so I'm just going to skim over them. But I wanted to kind of hear about how you started the brewery, but we already got that done. A big one I always find as people know, there's two ways of starting a company. There's, you have a bunch of investors and they go, here's $1 million, create a brewery. And then there's the way that you and I started, where you've got a little bit of dollars in your wallet and you start super small.
Yeah.
So what were some of the challenges in those early stages?
I mean, one of them for us was we had no money, essentially.
How much did you guys put down?
I mean, basically $0.
Yeah, because raft guy.
We started, I was straight out of university. The other guys had, been raft guides as well. And you don't have a ton of savings from that. And we each scooped together a little bit of money. I know our brewing system cost us, I think, $12,000.
Okay.
And then rent, and you had to buy some kegs and stuff. But, essentially we didn't get started with much more than that. But rewinding to the summer before we opened, it's about how are we going to get open with $0?
Yeah.
And one of the things I did was literally start living in my van.
Okay.
So I had this big yellow van that, Ruth Gordon had owned previously.
Yeah, I know Ruth.
And I bought it from her. And I'd already driven out west and back with it. And it was iconic shuttle vehicle on Grand Settlement Road. And I just started living in it. And, that was to save money. So every paycheck that I got from rafting or doing any odd jobs could just go into savings. And then, really, I mean, we were just all in from day one. If we needed to work 18, 20 hours a day, we would do it, and we did it. And the three of us did everything. Everything there is to running a business and brewing and everything else, we did it for the first couple of years. And it was just like I say, we were all in. There was nothing left on the table, and just kept pushing forward and reinvesting and
Yeah, you guys didn't start taking salaries until like recently.
4 years in it.
Yeah, which is pretty crazy. And that's the big thing. Like
People forget that about.
If you don't have money, the only thing you have is time, right?
I moved in with my mother-in-law before my now wife, girlfriend at the time. So I was living with her mum. I'd never lived with her yet. And then Savannah would come home from university, and her mum would be like, "Oh, Chris doesn't like that." And Savannah would be, "Your mum, my mum knows you more than I do."
Hi, Savannah. If you're watching.
So things like that were funny, but just she was great to help us out, and we did have a ton of help from friends and family and stuff as well. So
people forget that sacrifice. That people think, "Oh, look at you now." Man, it must be nice to own your own brewery, but they forget about all those years of not paying yourself, living in a van, living with your future wife's mom. It's
I'd only known her for 6 months.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Well, that's cool. My other question was about the day jobs, but we knew you were raft guys now. That was your day job.
Yeah.
This is an interesting one because I find a lot of parallels between Level 6 and Whitewater Brewery. Because I had a business partner, Tyler, who when we started Level 6, we were both on national team kayaking, and we were, I think, having a partner, in my mind, looking back, was instrumental in getting us from that early stage of an idea, figuring things out together. It's more of a friendship thing than you kind of grow to a big business.
Yep.
But things change, people's perception of what they want in life change. So in the beginning, you had partners as well starting.
Yeah.
But now you're really the face of Whitewater Brewery. So how did that all kind of come to be?
Yeah. So 3 good friends all work together every summer, sort of disappear in the winter, come back and drink beers, and decide to open a brewery. And it was great. And we continued. It was the 3 of us for just over a year. And James, one of our good friends, basically decided that small business life and the financial commitment at the time just wasn't possible for him to continue. So he took a step away. He's still an owner of the business, but he went back to being a paramedic in Toronto. But still is a great supporter, still a really good friend. Still shows up in my driveway unexpectedly. you know,
Still
having
hilarious.
driven 5 hours.
Yeah.
And I look out the window, I'm like, James Innes?
Yeah, he's
Like, come on in.
funniest guy,
Like, yeah,
too.
can I stay? So, you know, still great friends, but just essentially small business life wasn't for him.
Yeah.
At the time, especially. And then it was down to the two of us, Chris Thompson and Chris Thompson. And Chris and I worked together and grew it all the way up until October 2017. So more recent. And basically Chris has taken a potentially temporary, potentially permanent step away just for personal stuff. He may well come back and join forces again. But again, still an owner, still a good friend, still comes by the brewery and has a beer and stuff.
Yeah.
And but for now, it's down to just me of the original three.
Original three. Wow.
Like I say, Chris may come back,
Yeah.
but it's now me. But underneath me, we have a really great manager for each department. So Sean is our brewmaster, Greg's our pub general manager, Sarah's our head chef, Tristan's our marketing manager, who you guys know.
Yep.
And you know, there's more departments, but we have somebody responsible and accountable to each.
Yep.
I can step away and come and do Friday afternoon beers with you guys. You know, and the brewery's still operating.
Still
Everything's still great.
Yep.
They answer all the questions. They deal with everything. And if they're stumped, they come to me. Or if they want to bounce ideas off me, they come to me.
Yeah.
But really, they can run their own part of it, and I just step in and do the easy stuff when I have to.
Do you think that, looking back on it now, do you think that you could have, maybe partnerships, they kind of, it makes it a camaraderie, makes it a fun thing yourself, or do you think that that partnership was kind of key in the beginning? I know for me, I always question, could I have done it by myself? But there was so many ideas or different trains of thought that I bounced off Tyler that really kind of focused our energy in the right way. Do you think you could have done it by yourself, or do you think the partnership is what got you to where you were?
I mean, to some extent, yes, but realistically, no. I think, I could have done some of what we've done, but by no means did I come up with all of our great ideas or anything like that. And they just wouldn't exist without the three of us bouncing ideas off each other, shooting down each other's ideas, or at least questioning them and saying, well, why that, why not this? And us collectively coming up with a much better idea. And we still have that mentality at the brewery, but rewinding 6 years when we weren't paying ourselves and everything else, you can't have staff to do that because who wants to do that? So no, there's no way we could have done what we did and be where we are without the three of us fully committed. Even when I say working 18-hour days, I mean all three of us working 18-hour days.
Well,
7 days a week, nonstop, right? There just wouldn't be the workload.
And that's the thing. You have 24 hours of time in the day as an individual, and then you have 72 hours, right? Between the three individuals, right? So the amount you can get accomplished. Like the other thing too is you guys are pretty young.
That's a math
I'm
guy.
horrible at math.
I'm good with 24s as well.
But and then the other thing is like you guys were like you were 20. How old are you now? Like you were 20.
I'm 32, so when we opened, I was 26.
So your confidence at 26 is a little different than you are after facing adversity at 32. You know what I mean? So I think
I'm wiser now.
Well, it's just like you're more conditioned to be able to handle that kind of pressure and anxiety. I think why most young people partner up is because you kind of alleviate each other's anxiety and you kind of comfort each other in a sense. You know what I mean? It's
when you get a stressful situation, I can imagine tons of the things we went through could have been overwhelming just for me, or just for one of us. But when you've got the other two guys pulling together and figuring it out,
one person steps up, and there's you kind of lead in different.
No, exactly. So could I have started a brewery? Yes. Would it be anywhere close to where we are now? Absolutely not.
Yeah, I agree. I think also you mentioned about your management team, and I think when you do go out on your own, or you have silent partners now, but really you're doing the day-to-day, it's the management team that does a lot of the stuff. And I just think about like when I bought Tyler out, really it was about giving people like Pat and the other leaders here in this company the ability to make the decisions on their own. So they also become owners of the company in the sense that they're making the decision that I don't have to deal with. So but that comes with money. obviously
Right.
as you grow, but in the beginning you don't have that, so you have to have those partners.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's really important for our team just to be able to. I have faith in them, and
Yeah.
I know even if they make a mistake, they're making what they considered the right decision.
Yeah.
And if they make a mistake, their hands up, like, you
Yeah.
know, I messed up. Sorry.
Yeah, you own up to it.
It's like, that's fine. Let's
Yeah.
move on. Don't do it again.
Yeah.
So I have an interesting one that I kind of alluded to, like in one of our first liquid
episodes,
lunches.
yeah. And we talked about it a little bit.
Yeah, is that
Conversations, yeah.
starting a company, super risky.
Mhm.
I mean, when I was training on the national team, I had people who were finishing and they were becoming firemen or doctors, and it was basically cash for life.
Yep.
Where when Tyler and I started, same thing. We didn't pay ourselves for the first 6 years,
Yep.
and luckily we were good enough at kayaking that Sport Canada supported us. But that does run out as your body starts not being able to handle it anymore. So there's a ton of risk involved in starting your own company,
Mhm.
especially in what you guys up in I would say middle of nowhere, but rural Canada.
Yep.
You get into the brewing business, incredibly competitive. But I think there's an element there of people who are into whitewater, people are into, I would call them extreme sports, not extreme to us, but extreme to the general public, that they have this ability to mitigate risk. And what's Pat's word he told me? Proclivity.
I told him he had to use that word today.
I screwed it up.
He did mess it
Yeah.
up. Way to go, you dumb.
Yeah. They have a I don't know what it means, tenacity, proclivity.
There you go.
It's to mitigate risk and you're always going through your motions. Of small business is not like a straight line. I kind of attribute it to running a river, where you see the lines, you can go this way and go that way.
Mhm.
Both ways might be good, but that way might be bad. And if you're halfway down that line, you can kind of pivot and figure out that was the way to go, and you can make those decisions quickly.
Mhm.
Do you see an element in that, in how you and your other partners started it? Your ability to take clients down the river. You love whitewater. It's dangerous,
Yeah.
but you don't see it as dangerous. You see it as this is a fun afternoon out.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's a lot of risk there's risk in a lot of things we do,
Yeah.
especially as paddlers, skiers, etc.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's something we necessarily think about consciously all the time.
Yeah.
Maybe you have your knowledge base up to a level where it's more natural, but you just know, to go this way and to follow this path, because yes, there's risk, but I have confidence in my abilities, or for as a company and
Yeah.
what we do. So yeah, there's risk, but we know we can navigate through this way.
Okay.
And sort of just err on the side of caution sometimes when there might be some big burly danger on one side that could be possible.
Mhm.
But and I think just the natural sort of decision to err that way can be good.
Yeah.
But not be afraid of risk as well. And sometimes it's risky, but it might not be a fatal risk.
Right.
And as a company, we've recently started talking about quite frequently, especially when we're talking to our staff, is like non-fatal and fatal failures.
Okay.
And not in terms of life and death, like it might be kayaking, but the principle is similar, where it's okay to make non-fatal failures. And these mistakes are fine, and we'll learn and improve and come back from. But some of these fatal failures you might not be able to come back from.
Right.
So if there's anything where there could be a fatal failure, these are the steps we need to take to decide whether we go that way.
Right.
So yeah.
I think it's funny because talking about that burly line and knowing what we've gone through, we've had similar challenges over the year. As we grow, there's always something, and something that was presented to me maybe 3 years ago, I'm like, there's no way I could do that, or we couldn't succeed at that, or I couldn't run that line.
Mm-hmm.
But now 3 years later, we've grown as a company, we've learned, experienced, that now if that same thing is presented to us, which it has been, then we can, quote unquote, run that line, and we can do that burly or rapid because you learn from those experiences.
Yeah, your skill sets improve.
That's right.
That sort of
Yeah,
thing.
so it's certainly a lot like, truly a lot like running a river in a sense, or being that constantly negotiating.
Yeah, or having exit plans or plan Bs, plan Cs.
And knowing that sometimes it might not work out.
Totally,
I'm taking this risk, I think we're going to be good. We have the skills, but sometimes,
some things are out of your control.
Shit happens, and it might not pan out.
Yeah.
And being okay with that failure, it could be a simple swim on the river in a safe area or whatever, and being okay with that is important too.
Have you ever spoke to Algonquin College about, as a lecturer, got in there and talked to the students?
No, I haven't.
Yeah, I think honestly it'd be something that'd be interesting, because a lot of those kids they're on the river and they're doing these sports and having that business component to it, because sometimes there's not enough positions sometimes to fill in the industry they may necessarily want to get into, but there's so much knowledge they have and skill sets they have outside of the school classroom that could be shown to them through a talk from you or.
Totally. Yeah, like between in the Whitewater and the guiding side of things too, like the no hesitation. There's mountaineers that go around and they'll lecture Fortune 500 companies, and their big thing is like, don't hesitate, because the second you start hesitating and second guessing yourself, that's when you start making mistakes, fatal mistakes, right? Especially in an environment like Everest or when you're mountaineering in the Himalayas. You just constantly need to be making decisions, even if it's the wrong decision. Okay, well, we're in this situation, so what's the next decision? I find that's very much what the business landscape is like. I've made plenty of mistakes, and you just kind of, what's the next best decision after that? And those are skills that I didn't learn in a classroom. Those are skills that I was taught through Whitewater, through adventuring, through skiing, hiking, all that stuff, where you just end up in a shit situation, and you just need to make the best decision in that situation and get yourself out of it. So it totally transfers.
For sure it does.
Yeah.
What about, as my next question is, like, there's always milestones. Like, if you look back now on your history of starting the company, there's always milestones where you look back and go, okay, that was a turning point for us. If I think about level 6, I think about when we started designing our own fabrics from the ground up. That was a milestone because we could control what our end product would be. Or, I mean, for us personally, when I took over all the shares of the company, that was a big milestone for us, because then there was opposed to having 2 different owners of directions, there was a singular direction, for better or for worse, but that was a milestone for us that we really we catapulted as a company. Can you think back on?
Yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of them, going from just the brewery to having the brew pub as well. Getting our first beer in cans, which was Farmer's Daughter. Building the second brewery, adding various key employees, getting beers in the LCBO. All of those things are huge. More recently, though, 2 spring to mind. Sort of for the last 2 years, we've been really focused on. So it's very easy to get stuck on numbers and the financial side and that sort of thing, and that's equally as important as it ever was. But we now intentionally put a lot of focus on our culture and that side of things.
The brand of it.
Getting together as a collective and deciding what our cultural values are and our business's intent and our vision statement and things like that, and not just having them, but deciding what it is collectively and getting buy-in from everyone, and then making decisions based on that. So, our business intent is crafting happiness, and that's defined by a sentence, and that's defined by certain values. But we wanted that short term that we can just say, is this crafting happiness? And we know what it means, because we've got the definitions. And this isn't something we put out to the public. This is just an internal thing for our staff.
It is now.
It is now. But I mean, we don't advertise.
It's a great.
But when we're hiring people, well, is this a good decision based on all these values? Is that person going to be crafting happiness? And we now make decisions based on that, and it helps guide us, and that's really been key.
That's great.
And the only other thing, well, not the only other thing, but the other huge thing is, in order to grow, we would use the capabilities of some other breweries to brew for us, where we didn't have the capacity. And as of March this year, we now brew 100% of what we make ourselves. Whereas before we brewed sort of anywhere between 60 and 80%. It's now 100% us, which is really cool.
Yeah, self-reliant. That's wicked. You guys have always done a really great job of kind of telling your story as well, just kind of the river roots side of things and the always time to play.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It's work hard, which is the culture you guys have there, and then play hard as well. So as soon as you do have some free time, and you guys have always done a really great story behind that. So cheers to you guys.
Yeah,
You guys have done really well.
Cheers.
Yeah, it's things we believe in. So
it's been fun to watch you guys
easy.
grow. Yeah.
Thank you.
So let's open up the floor. Do you have any more?
I have more.
Well, let's open up the floor for just a few
God.
questions, and then we can circle back to you, Larson.
Jesse drunk your second beer. Sorry.
Yeah,
guys.
we're saying. It's okay. I can step out and I'll go get a big bottle of margarita. And we can just drink out of the bottle.
Here's
Go ahead.
one that's close to my heart. How did you get hockey legend Doug Gilmore to collaborate on the beer?
Whitewater. Like, so basically, Doug was expanding his brand generally, obviously now having been out of playing hockey for a while. He'd already gone into the wine industry and was looking for a brewery. And both he and one of his managers had been rafting at Wilderness Tours. And heard of us that way and approached us that way.
Yeah.
So we met up, and we, not to toot my own horn, but we
Toot here it comes.
we generally get on well with people.
Yeah.
Like I don't think we're hard to get on with.
No, you're pretty
That's
easy to
anyone
get
in
on
our
with.
business, and we all got on really well, and had a similar vision, and we understood what he wanted, and we could execute it, and it went from there.
Okay.
So
Did you get to meet him?
the magic of Whitewater, yeah, tons of times. Yeah, he's come up to the brewery a bunch and seen him at various events.
It's
and all
Jesse's
over, so.
childhood hero. So
Yeah, I get the occasional text, and
Do you
You're kind of a
think-
traitor though, because he's a Toronto Maple Leafs and you guys are Ottawa based. So just saying.
Do you think that, like you mentioned Joe from
Canadian,
Willis Tours.
Yeah.
Mentioned Joe from Willis Tours a couple times, and I look back on, like, if you could singularly put one person that kind of gave you that chance. And for me, for level 6, it was Wally. He was the founder of Trailhead. He was the first person to buy $500 worth of board shorts, and I look back to this day, and he was the guy who kind of guided us down that retail side.
mm-hmm.
Would you say Joe was one of that guy? Like, he was there to kind of help with the farmhouse?
Yeah, no question. I mean, like, I said it before, but on Raft Guide salaries, there's no way we could have afforded monthly lease on a building before we opened and that sort of thing without what he was able to do for us.
Yeah.
But then taking it further and going to town meetings with us to argue on our behalf and support us to help with zoning issues, and because in rural Ontario, a brewery, no, you can't do that. Raft Guide's running a brewery.
Yeah.
Sounds
It's
terrible.
ridiculous.
Sounds terrifying.
Yeah.
So, he was fundamental with helping us with that as well, and just being a great supporter from day one. So certainly one of the most influential people in starting with us.
Yeah.
But I mean, he isn't an owner. Just great.
Just
great.
Just a guy who
supporter and
helped you when you needed at that time you needed it.
At the time, acted like an owner, even though he wasn't.
Well,
It
and
was
one
really
thing
cool.
I know he catches a lot of flack, especially within the whitewater kayaking community, especially kind of in the last 2 years. But one thing that he does well is he does want to see the valley grow and prosper.
Strong
He's always
supporter.
been about that, right? He's always been about conserving the integrity of the Ottawa River as far as keeping the aesthetic, so you don't have powerboats and cottages everywhere, and then also growing a tourism business around there. Like there's a winery starting now that Joel and Adele are involved with, which is amazing. Because that's the next thing. Whitewater's not drawing people anymore. So what's next? We've got a brewery, we've got restaurants. That's the next big trend in tourism. And the next thing is wineries, and it just kind of grows from there, and he just tries to surround himself with people that are passionate about the area. So,
and him and I don't always see eye to eye,
course,
but those are relationships I value. Like,
for
you
sure.
need people to challenge you and
totally.
be challenged by, and to challenge them, and so we have a great relationship, and
Yeah.
Cool.
Jesse.
More questions?
Yeah, they're flooded in.
I know. Yeah, like seriously, when
awesome.
Stig and I are sitting here, nobody asks
Because
us
you're not
any
very
questions.
charismatic.
Yeah.
Just
You know
FYI.
what?
I don't care what Carrie's
maybe.
my wife's
You look
dad
up
says.
big words in the dictionary.
Yeah.
I do. Actually, on a side note, please send us in like some words that you want us to use for the next episode. I think that'll be the new trend here.
Hippopotamus.
Yeah,
Yes.
I'll throw it in there.
Or hate. I'm still looking for hate tweets too.
And hate tweets.
What's the next one?
Chris, do you cook with beer? And if so, what's your favorite Whitewater brew to cook with?
Ooh.
Ooh, that's good. Midnight Stout's always
gonna say
the
that.
obvious
Yeah, that's what I drink.
choice for everyone. It has so many rich, bold flavors that really come through in cooking. At the pub we use it in our ice cream. We use it in our barbecue sauce. We braise things in it. We add it to our gravy. But then we do things with the other beers that might not be so obvious. So IPAs are quite difficult to cook with because they add that bitterness that isn't great in food. So you got to be really careful adding IPAs. I've thought, it will be fine, and added a whole can in and being like, this is gross. So, but one thing that we do at the pub, which is really cool, is we make Class 5 ketchup.
Cool.
So we make our own ketchup, and we use Class 5 in that, and it adds this sort of unique twist to it, which is really cool.
Because ketchup is generally pretty sweet, so that bitterness would balance it well. Yeah.
Yeah. At home, I love doing it like barbecued food and just using it in any sort of marinade. And,
Cool.
And, I haven't done anything with a sour yet, but I'd be really interested to try that on some barbecue food.
Neat. Cool. That's a good question. Yeah.
What's your branding and naming process for the individual beers?
That's developed over the years, but I would say the theme is we always try and have a story behind the brand. So if we look at Blood Moon or one of our other new beers, Icebreaker or Dawn Patrol, we look at sort of, like I say, designing or relating to a story. So with Blood Moon, we linked obviously the blood orange,
the sunsets in the valley,
and the iconic sunsets you get in the valley, and the moon as well, that you get in the summer, where you're coming off an evening paddle and there's this huge big red moon in the sky. So this is sort of a tribute to that, and it just ties in nicely with blood orange. Icebreaker really wasn't to do with the flavors in the beer, but it was a spring seasonal for us. So what happens in spring? Well, there's a lot of ice on the river, and we go out and break through the ice to paddle, and sort of we designed it around that.
Well, it seems like the whole valley comes alive when the ice breaks off the river too, right? Everyone starts flooding back, paddling. Yeah.
Exactly. So, sometimes we try and link something with the flavor in the beer or the style to make it either a pun or... but more often than not, it's just about the time of year and the story behind it.
Yeah, and the roots. Yeah.
The next sour we're coming out with, actually, it will be going in the LCBO in September, is called Wild Bog. And it's a cranberry sour.
Cool.
And cranberries naturally grow in wild bogs. And the name comes from cranes that eat cranberries in the wild bogs, and the cranberry used to be called craneberry. So it's just going back to that sort of wild bog.
Cool.
And we have a lot of bogs in the valley, and cranberries grow. And
it's brewed with crane shit.
Yeah.
Digested
Full
cranberries.
disclaimer, no crane shit in the...
That's how the cranberries spread around.
Yeah. It's like that coffee that they do
in Vietnam.
Yeah.
Yeah, with
the monkeys poop
feral... It's a feral cat of some sort.
Oh. Yeah. The cats poop it out and then they brew coffee with it.
Yeah, it goes to their stomach and the acidity breaks down the bean a bit.
Yeah.
And they poop it out, and then we actually have some in the freezer.
Maybe we can see if anyone online is interested in a beer made the same way.
Vietnamese coffee beer. Jesse?
I got one that I'm going to combine into two, I think.
Okay.
If this makes any sense. Do you have any other collaborations in mind, or do you guys bring in guest brewmasters to try out new flavors?
So we've done a lot of collaborations in the past. One thing I've always thought we do poorly is shouting about some of the fun stuff we do. So I don't know if you remember it, we had a beer called Jacked Rabbit. It was an espresso IPA.
Yeah, loved it.
And we used espresso coffee beans from Madawaska Coffee Company. to add into an IPA, and then you've got this 7.2% espresso IPA that's amazing at 11 a.m. to wake you up. But it's a lunchtime beer as well. So we definitely need to do a better job shouting about the things we do. One of the ongoing ones we have is our partnership with the Royal Canadian Legion. So
Lager.
We brew Legion Lager. We actually just tweaked the recipe a little bit. So if you pick it up in the LCBO or anywhere else, Manitoba, Saskatchewan, BC, in the next few weeks, it will be a slightly tweaked recipe, just reducing that bitterness a little bit. Based on customer feedback. But we donate 5% of lifetime sales to Royal Canadian Legion and veterans programs that they support. So that's a really cool one. I don't think we have any immediate plans for anything coming up, but if anyone has any ideas, we'd love to hear them. Partnerships or breweries to partner with to do something fun, that would be cool.
On that note, you guys are distributed across Canada now.
Working our way that way, Not every province, but
what provinces are you guys in? Because we always say that we can find.
We'll drive down to the States with whatever our trade show circuit is in the States. We'll bring beer down through and meet you up with where you are.
But as far as Canada, we don't really know where you can find it outside of Ontario because it's everywhere around where we are.
So obviously Ontario, and then Manitoba and Saskatchewan, we have pretty good distribution. In the government stores and private liquor stores, and Saskatchewan, we're in all the Sobeys, for example. BC, we will be going back into in a few weeks. We just had a slight hiccup there with production, and so it's temporarily off the shelves, but going back in soon. And then slowly we're trying to access, the different provinces as there's demand and we have capability to supply.
Are you guys looking to break into the U.S. market at all, or?
It's obvious for it to be in the thought process, just because it's so close. It's 200 million people and 500 miles of Toronto or something like that. South of the border. So, silly not to, but at the same time, it brings a whole other level of complexity, and each state is different and everything else. So, we want to be working our way that way, but we want to make sure we can supply sort of our home markets first.
Makes sense.
Cool. Do we have a lot of questions, Jesse, or can we get back into Stig's little questions here for a bit and then
go back to Stig's boring questions?
Oh my God! I only have I have one more left. One more.
This is a serious one.
A serious one. Not really that serious.
It's super serious.
God, you read my list?
No.
There's no big words in it.
I don't know.
So you probably won't like it. There was every time you travel and you realize that there's a ton of other companies out there. So for you, in the brewery business. They project themselves, these grassroots startup companies, but when you really kind of dig deeper, you see that they had, let's throw a number out, like $1 million here, start a brewery with you and your friends, and they eliminate all those things that you learned the hard way in the yellow van, and giving all the offcuts to Pat here, so you throw his benders, and they eliminate all that whole process, and those processes are what you learned from. That's what created potentially this or all those different things. Knowing now that you can succeed, you are where you are right now, you're successful. If you knew that time that you'd be this successful, would you have done it any other way? Like, would you have taken any other risks, or would you, if knowing that you're going to be here today, you're not going to be working at McDonald's paying off your $500,000 debt?
It's easy to look back with hindsight and say we could have tried to move quicker and that sort of thing. That's often something I think about, is could we have done it quicker? But at the same time, I think we've been really aggressive with our growth. The only way we could have maybe been more aggressive is if we did take outside investment and bring in another partner to add that cash injection, because pretty much we are maxed out leverage-wise with banks and everything else to build our brewery and everything else. And, we've managed to keep 100% of the business, but that's really important to us so that we can grow how we want to and on our terms and with the people we want to. And I think in the early stages, it's really important that you don't let sort of your soul or the core part of the business get away from you.
Yeah.
And there's definitely times we could have done something for more dollars in sales or something like that. But is that something we want to do? Maybe not. Whereas I feel if we've had investors or something, we might have felt forced to follow those paths. So I feel that this way we've been able to grow as aggressively as we can, but create the brand and the products and everything we want to create, still at quite a high rate and quite quickly, but like I say, the way we want to. And I think as we continue to grow, I don't know if we'll need outside investment or not, but we still have big growth plans. But at least now we have our identity sort of solidified.
Yeah.
And we know who we are and what we do. And I think if we had gone that route, we might not be where we are today in terms of our brand.
Yeah.
There's so many breweries out there that do start with money. Yeah. And good for them. I mean, that's amazing if you have access to it. But what's cool for us is we have a great story. Yeah. And you can't buy a story.
No, there's a process that goes in behind that, right? Yeah. Like even when you were talking about the culture that you created, no amount of money can create that type of culture. For sure. That's something that comes through a lot of hard work and perseverance and resilience, really, and vision that you don't get from an outside investor who's influencing you to, where's my money? I want that return as fast as I possibly can.
Even the bank recently questioned, like I took 5 of our managers and myself to a leadership conference in San Diego, and not a cheap trip, obviously, but he questioned, like, can you really afford to be doing that, or just made a comment like it's a lot. And my response was, we can't afford not to. We need to be investing in ourselves and growing ourselves, and so that we can continue to grow and be around, not for the next 5 years, but 25 years. And
totally.
So we've had relatively sustainable growth. Now and again we've been caught short and not being able to keep up, but that happens. We've learned from it, and hopefully it won't happen again. So
it's probably also the reason why, like, I talk about your beers half an hour ago, how your beers are not just a copy of another person, a version of somebody else's, because you have your story, you have your identity, and you're not answering to somebody saying you need to create a sour that looks and tastes like these beers so we can get in the LCBO and sell X number more cases. It's like, I'm going to create the one that I want, and I believe that this is going to be the next thing.
And that's interesting because the LCBO chose not to carry this summer as a summer seasonal. Yeah. And fair enough, they get so many applications. They've been really great to us this year already with some seasonals. But for us, that I wouldn't have wanted to brew something differently that they might say, yes, let's take it, because no one else is doing it. I'm so glad we did this, because right now it's our second best seller this summer. Yeah. And so, it's the long game, but maybe next summer we go to them and we say, look at the sales, look at the proof of concept, like, would you like to reconsider? And maybe they will.
And we've done that here at Level 6, especially with like the casual line of, their lifestyle and activewear line. It really supports and it adds to this line that major retailers will commit to this type of stuff, and then they're always leery on the activewear side of things, but that's part of our identity. That's something that we've done really well, and people value that side of the company. It's
I think also in this day and age, like I think I wrote a little article with Scott McGregor at Rap, another kind of Ottawa success story, paddler, learn the risk assessment, risk mitigation. Shorty Dry Top, no buyer in the retail market will touch that a mile away. It's too expensive. It's such a niche market.
It's one of my favorite pieces
and we build them, and customers come directly to us for them. So it doesn't matter what the masses are trying to tell you what to make. It's got to kind of make what you believe is right, and then it will sell, and it adds to your brand story and the success of your company.
Well, we've been running for almost an hour and 20 minutes now. Almost at 100 hours and 20 minutes. So, an hour and 20 minutes. So let's get the last few questions that Jesse might have, or he maybe even hate tweets about Stig because he wants some scathers.
The only ones
it's a
are
bit of a
so hot in
masterpiece.
here that Stig's forehead is gleaming.
Yeah, it's so hot.
Turn the AC off.
Yeah,
Wearing a plaid on the day
Yeah.
is awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
Someone
turn
really
the
say
AC
that?
off too.
But then, no, I said that.
You
Yeah.
said that. Great,
Yeah.
Jesse, you're fired.
So with the amount of questions we got, thank you
Yeah.
everyone who took the time to tune
Yeah.
in and ask Chris these questions. We're gonna bring Chris in again at some point. He's definitely
sure.
gonna be a recurring guest here at the Liquid
That'd be
Lunch.
fun.
So
It's a great way to spend a Friday afternoon.
Yeah, totally.
I'm in.
yeah, so thanks for coming by
Yeah, thank
again.
you.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
If you don't follow Whitewater Brewery on Instagram or any of the social media platforms, please do. If you've never tried their beer, do yourself a favor. Go out and drink their goddamn beer. It's delicious. And if you see Chris, he's always on the river. He's at various events. Just say hi. He's a super approachable, nice person. Let that go
Oh,
to your
I
head.
did have
Yeah.
one more question.
Oh, here we
Thank
go.
you. I'm sorry, I was
Yeah.
gobsmacked. I
I
couldn't
know.
say anything.
I
I was like, what?
Yeah, compliments. Go ahead with that last
I
question.
wanted to know, I had private messages from friends wanting to ask you if you were ever going to consider doing a workshop for brewing.
It's something we've talked about, yeah. Sort of coming and spending a day with our brewer.
Yeah.
I mean, our Riverside system's so perfect for that. So it's sort of one of those projects that we've talked about. Yeah, it's a great idea and never follow through it. So that's a really great nudge to keep following, to know there's people that do want it. So that's really cool.
Totally. Yeah, you guys have a lot of knowledge between all your staff that people
Yeah,
are
and-
interested in getting for sure.
And we love talking about ourselves.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So once again, we're gonna do another Liquid Lunch down the line with Chris. So thanks again for coming in, man. Really appreciate it.
problem.
Thanks for supplying us with beer for our wonderful habit. There's nothing else I'd rather be drinking.
Thank you.
And follow us on social media to be in the loop of what we've got going on, and Whitewater Brewery. They have a lot of great content, great blog as well that I've read a few times. Thank you for tuning in.
Yeah,
we love
see
you guys.
See you next time.
We'll see you next time, probably in August. at some
One
point.
last thing before we go. I told you where you cannot get this.
Yeah, where can you get
Not
it?
in the LCBO.
Yeah.
If you're in Ottawa, you can get it in grocery stores and rest of Ontario grocery stores.
And you can order direct online through.
Direct
Whitewater.
online.
Yeah.
It is in Manitoba and Saskatchewan too.
Cool.
So
Awesome.
yeah.
Actually,
There
my
we go.
wife is loving. She would love this. I'm actually pick up a little case on the way home.
There you
So
go.
Loblaws on Baseline.
I would have to check, but yeah,
Okay.
most of them. We only launched it in grocery last week, this week, so
Okay.
it's slowly getting on shelves.
Wicked.
Awesome.
Awesome, man. Well,
Yeah.
we'll see you guys on the river. Thank you for tuning in.
Thank
We
you.
love you all, and cheers to Whitewater Brewery. Thanks.